Tonight, dramatic video showing the Carnival cruise ship Sunshine battling hurricane-force winds. The 14-deck, 900-foot-long ship sailing straight into a dangerous storm Friday night. Those winds kicking up enormous waves, sending sea spray even to the upper decks, and hissing past portholes. Whitecaps as far as the eye could see.
I was fully prepared that we were going to hear that call over the loudspeaker to abandon ship.
Salt water streaming into cabins.
Oh my God.
Passengers left to slosh through waterlogged hulls. The Sunshine attempting to return from the Bahamas to its Charleston, South Carolina port. Among the nearly 3,000 passengers and 1,000 crew members were A.J. Whited and his fiancée Tracy trying to celebrate their engagement.
And it was shaking us so violently, like we couldn't do anything. We didn't eat any restaurants. We had no relaxation, nothing at all.
Please take extra precaution by holding handrails when possible.
After warning the ship was heading into a storm, vacationers say the crew left them for hours without an update.
After the weather got really bad, nobody reached out. There was silence over the intercom system. Nobody was on the intercom, the captain, the cruise director, or anyone.
And we just got this in from the ship's captain, saying that they made several announcements about the weather and the delay in returning to Charleston, but added that some of the worst weather occurred in the overnight hours when announcements are not typically made. Thankfully, there were only minor injuries here. Whit.
Certainly a frightening scene, though. Victor, thank you.
Jesslyn Schigel says she and her family got sick with food poisoning last month while staying at a Mexican resort, the Royalton Splash Riviera Cancun.
The resort is supposed to be kind of your home away from home. It's supposed to be your safe space when you travel. And that was far from the answer for us.
After her husband got sick, she says she asked the front desk for medical help. That's when she says staff presented her with this non-disclosure agreement that would have prevented them from sharing their negative experience with anyone.
They said they would not send the doctor unless I signed this paper.
To me, that's holding a ransom over their head.
Schigel didn't sign it, and travel experts say she was right not to. Those in the industry call it bad practice.
It happens, and it happens for all the wrong reasons.
NDAs typically come up in compensation agreements, experts say, or to ensure only positive reviews make it online. That's why experts encourage travelers to look for middle-of-the-road reviews that are likely more accurate.
The vast majority of hospitality and tourism businesses do a good job. They want to take care of their guests. They get the long-term implications.
We reached out to Blue Diamond Resorts, the owner of the Cancun hotel, but we didn't hear back by deadline. Schigel says her family eventually did see a doctor at the resort and they were compensated for their stay. But she says the hotel still hasn't told her why they asked her to sign that document in the first place.
All right, now to this story. Photos tell a horrifying story. An American tourist in recovery back in the U.S. and telling his story tonight about a nightmare in Mexico. He was mugged and left for dead.
State Department heightening its warning to Americans traveling to Mexico, where violent crimes are on the rise, even in tourist destinations.
Haley Winslow live in LAX with a story that you'll only see here on Fox 11. Haley.
He's sharing his story for the very first time and believes that's why he's still here, to help others, because really there is no other explanation as to how he was able to survive all that he went through in Mexico.
I'll never forget that feeling. It was the scariest feeling in the entire world, but you're just done.
Mugged in Mexico and left for dead. Dustin Jackson and his wife were waiting for their flight home after the perfect vacation in Cancun. With hours to spare, Jackson hops in a cab for chewing tobacco, but the nearby gas station doesn't have any. He says the taxi driver, who later charged a few grand to his credit card, kidnaps him.
He says there's going to be just a grocery store. So I get out and I'm like, okay, as I'm walking in, then boom, lights out. Next thing I know, I am waking up in a ditch. They filleted off the entire bottom of my foot. So they went to cut my Achilles tendon and they missed. And instead of hitting it, they hit the bottom of the foot and then my foot just flapped around. They were trying to cut my tendons and leave me for dead. My shoulder's completely fake now. There is no more real bone in there. And the doctors think it's from them throwing me out of a vehicle probably.
Now dark and in the middle of nowhere, Jackson, who doesn't know Spanish, stumbles around for hours screaming for help. When even the cops turn him away, he crawls under a tarp to die.
I don't know what kind of power it is. And then when they talk about the mental strength that you have as a human being, because at this point, this is when however long I was laying there, pretty much just waiting to die, something inside of me, that strength came to me and said, you got family, you got kids, get up.
With everything left in him, Jackson gets up and keeps going, and survives thanks to help from a female police officer who stops, renders aid, and eventually gets him back to the airport, where he says he meets another guardian angel.
Begging. Hundreds of people walk by, not one person. And finally, this lady from Africa, her flight got canceled. That's why she stopped.
Jackson's had 4 surgeries. He can no longer play catch with his daughter or swing a golf club with his son, but knows he miraculously survived for a reason.
I take the little times in life. I don't take them for granted anymore. You just don't know what life's going to bring you. So never give up. Keep going. Everybody has a purpose.
It sounds like something out of a movie, and they're actually turning it into a documentary. If you'd like to help the Kickstarter or for more information, you can go to the DustinJacksonStory.com, and that's Dustin with an A. Reporting live at LAX, I'm Haley Winslow, Fox 11 News.
Excuse me, what the hell is this? A Florida woman is now the 5th American tourist arrested and charged with possession of ammunition in the popular vacation destination of the islands of Turks and Caicos. Sharita Grier, a mother in her 40s, was seen in court for the first time since her arrest on Monday. She's now facing a possible 12-year prison sentence under TCI's gun and ammunition laws. Grier was arrested when she tried to board her flight home after a routine search at the Howard Hamilton International Airport. Michael Lee Evans of Texas, Brian Hagerich of Pennsylvania, Ryan Watson of Oklahoma, and Tyler Wenrich of Virginia have all been charged with possession of ammunition offenses under TCI's strict firearms laws. Okay, people, we need to talk. When you're traveling abroad, you're subject to the laws of the country that you're traveling to. And the simple fact that this is happening more and more often means that you should know that being locked up in a Caribbean or Central American prison is no joke. A friend of mine had this happen to her in Honduras, and it was an absolute nightmare. Quick story time. A friend of mine from North Carolina took a girls' trip to Roatan, Honduras. And before she left, she purchased a safe can for her valuables. Now, if you don't know what a safe can is, you must be living underneath a rock. It's a safe that's designed as a soda can. It's very common, and it seems pretty innocent, right? She stayed for a week, and when she was trying to leave, she was detained at the airport by customs. They took the safe can out of her luggage, and that's where everything went sideways. They proceeded upon cutting open the safe can, and these cans are weighted with plaster on the inside lining so that they're heavy and they feel like there's actually soda in there. And when they cut this can open, all of the plaster dust fell out, and we all know that plaster is white. That's when they accused her of smuggling drugs and locked her up on the spot. And the way she described Honduran jails was like a dog pen outside underneath the blazing sun. They were not required to give her food. They were not required to give her water. The people from the village would walk over to the jail and they would give prisoners food and water through the chain link fence. She ended up getting very sick because the conditions were extremely unsanitary. And they were not required to give her medical attention either. It took the Department of State, Facebook, and Senator Tom Tillis to get her released. I don't tell these stories to scare anyone out of travel, but what some people don't understand before they strike out on their little international adventure is being from the U.S. will cause international officials to make an example of you. So check and recheck and check your luggage again. I hope that this was helpful and it gives you some direction. Happy travels.
Grenadian authorities identified the couple as Ralph Hendry and Kathy Brendel. Officials say the yacht was likely hijacked by 3 prisoners who escaped from a local jail.
Information suggests that while traveling between Grenada and St. Vincent, they disposed of the occupants.
Police say the couple was reported missing on February 18th, the same day the men escaped from custody in Grenada. Their yacht was found 3 days later on Brendel's 71st birthday, abandoned on a beach in St. Vincent.
The student was processed and found to be consistent with signs of violence. Several items were strewn on the deck and in the cabin, and a red substance that resembled blood was seen on board.
Now just in deep grief about losing these friends.
Friends of Hendry and Brendel say they were seasoned sailors who loved to be on their yacht that they named Simplicity. The couple was vacationing in Grenada, where their boat was docked.
The other boaters that were in this group with them down there said that they saw their boat at 10 p.m. when it was getting too dark to see anything. And that was the last time that it was seen.
The men were taken back into custody in St. Vincent the day the boat was discovered. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Miami.
Billy, call 911 and tell them.
In Cancun, Mexico, are investigating the deaths of 4 people whose bodies were found near a hotel yesterday. It is yet another troubling incident of violence at a Mexican resort popular with American tourists. Video shows crime scene tape wrapped around a beach resort area and tourists recording what appears to be armed officials moving through the area. Authorities say the 4 victims were Mexican citizens. They also say security video helped lead to the arrests of 2 people who were engaged in drug sales.
A developing Sydney teenager and her mother are flying back to Australia after they were among 7 tourists hospitalised in a suspected mass alcohol poisoning in Fiji. Mother Tanya Sando, age 56, and her daughter Georgia Sando Simpson, age 19, from Sydney's Upper North Shore, were rushed to hospital after drinking cocktails by the pool at the Warwick, Fiji resort. The 7 tourists were rushed to hospital with nausea, vomiting, and neurological symptoms, with one victim's friend sharing that she was foaming at the mouth and suffering seizures. He claimed another Australian woman was bleeding from her ears. An Australian mother and daughter pair, aged 18 and 49, are still believed to be in a critical condition. Pamela Sando told Daily Mail Australia that her daughter Tanya and granddaughter Georgia were flying back after being released from the hospital on Monday. She added that while other guests at the resort were there for a wedding, her family was just on vacation. George's grandfather David recalled receiving a terrifying late-night call telling him his family had been rushed to the hospital. "It's your worst nightmare," he said. Fiji Health shared that toxicology tests were being conducted, but they had yet to identify the cause.
22 people died when the Wakari White Island volcano erupted, and now the 3 brothers who own it are going on trial. On December 9, 2019, the tourist destination was transformed into a disaster zone with deadly consequences. Located off the coast of New Zealand's North Island, the island drew thousands of visitors each year. When tourists entered White Island, they walked into a crater that could erupt at any time. A mounted camera captured this photo just before the explosion. Directly below their feet is a mix of magma and superheated gas. Tourists were in the crater and watching from a nearby cruise ship when the volcano moved into a full-scale eruption. New Zealand's earthquake monitoring body GeoNet said explosive eruptions can happen with little or no warning. They eject cannonball-like hot rocks, ash clouds, and surges of boiling gases and rock projectiles into the air. 47 people were on the island at the time. 22 people died, including 17 Australians. Criminal charges were brought by WorkSafe New Zealand, which alleged the 3 Buttle brothers as well as 10 other parties breached workplace safety laws and said the brothers didn't make sure the tours were safe. After years of waiting, the trial is finally underway and is giving some families closure.
The man is recounting the moment he sprang into action when he saw 3 people nearly drowning on a Florida beach.
When I made the decision, I'm going in, I said, Lord, please don't let this be my last day.
Fernando Carrera was visiting his family, and as he was walking on the beach, he said he heard screaming and saw a swimmer who was struggling. In an instant, he jumped into the water.
I tried to tell him, stay with me, stay with me. He can hear me, he sees me coming, and so finally I reach out to him, I get a hold of him. And I start, try to get him out.
Video recorded by his family captured him bringing back a man to shore. Carrera said the current was strong, but that didn't stop him from going back into the water when he realized there were more people who needed help.
And so I turned around and there's 2 more people farther in. I'm like, oh my goodness.
He then returned to the shore with 2 teens. Officials said 5 people were rescued and were transported to a nearby hospital. Partly thanks to Carrera's heroic efforts, they are all expected to be okay.